Hi folks, welcome back to the Tabletop's Edge, and we have an unboxing for you today. It is Panzers Last Stand, the fourth game in the Battalion Combat series from Multi-Man Publishing. This just arrived. I believe they started shipping to pre-orders last week, so this has been one of my most anticipated new games of the year this year, so I was very excited to get this on the table and ready to rip into the shrink here. Now it comes in a rather attractive 3-inch box, same size box that they used for last Blitzkrieg. This game is roughly the same size as last Blitzkrieg. It has 4 maps. I believe it's 8 counter sheets, 1,680 counters. I'm sorry, it's 6 counter sheets. There are 4 sheets of units and 2 BCS marker sheets. You can see here a list of scenarios that are included. There are, I believe it's 10 scenarios, but let's stop speculating and get right into the box and see what's inside. So let's rip the shrink on this one. All right. And let's see what we've got inside. All right, inside the box we have one 6-sided die. There should be another one rattling around in here. We'll check that out in a minute. We have the standard MMP packing slip. You can see the list of components that should be included. And then right on top here, we have the game-specific rule book. With all of the Gamers style games, they come with a series rule book, which will have the rules that are common to all the games in this series, such as the Operational Combat series, in this case, Battalion Combat series. And then they'll include a game-specific rule book, which will have the rules that are specific to that particular game. You see here common special rules like weather. We've got how many pages of rules here? Let's see, 5. Really only about 6 pages of rules, and the rest of the book here is scenario setups. There are about 10, and it looks like an extensive set of design notes. This weighs in right at 44 pages, and it looks like it has an index, reasonably extensive index. At least they've got all of the rules identified by case number, and then all of the scenarios here. You do see 10 different scenarios, and then the designer's notes in the back. This is on that same kind of heavy paper, not quite cardstock, that they use for just about all of the Gamers series rules and game-specific rules. Now, speaking of the series rules, here we have version 2.0 of the Battalion Combat series rules, and for those of you that are watching the last Blitzkrieg playthrough that I'm currently filming now, these are the rules that I am using in that game. They are fully backwards compatible with all of the previous games, the 3 previous games in the series. You can see inside here the rules are full color. They have not changed much in the way of the rules for version 2.0. Rather, they've sort of cleaned up some things, reorganized. They've tweaked them here and there as the system continues to kind of mature over its development. But here's one of the newer sections of the rules that were not addressed in previous rules. They've added urban warfare rules to the series, and that's because of the presence of Budapest in Panzers Last Stand. Rather than make the urban rules specific to this game, they decided to go ahead and create rules that will work across games throughout the entire series. And I actually like that. This 2.0 rule book weighs in at 48 pages. This is not on the same type of paper as the game specific. This is more of a glossy, which allows them to do that full color. I don't know if this will be quite as durable as the game-specific rulebook or the older matte paper style, but it is nice, and lots of full-color illustrations and examples, as you can see in there, having looked at the online version of these rules over the last couple of weeks, I do think that it's an improvement over the version 1.0 and the 1.1, 1.2, I think it was, that were included in the previous games. Next up, we've got, is this the Soviet? Yes, this is the Soviet activation display card. It's single-sided. Now, in Panzers Last Stand, they've got some game-specific rules. Instead of being able to activate all of your formations every turn, instead you're going to have a certain number of allotments which you are going to have to spend in order to activate various formations. So not every formation is going to get an activation every turn, and you're going to track that on this display here. You can see they have Tier 2 and Tier 1, as well as various different kinds of activations. So the rules, they look interesting. I'm curious to see how they play out. You can see that they've introduced also this concept of spoiling attacks. So looks like another nice little layer to puzzle with the BCS. So there's the Soviet activation display. I expect we'll see one for the Germans. And then next we have our first set of counters. Again, pretty attractive set of counters. The counters here on the left side with this X on them are part of the Budapest garrison. But you can see they've got some Black SS units here, some more German, lots of Panzer divisions. There are, let's see, I think I see a couple of SS Kampfgruppe. We've got 2nd SS Panzer, 3rd SS Panzer, 5th SS, 9th SS Panzer, and 12th SS Panzer. And then along with that, we've got some more Kampfgruppen, 1st, 3rd, 6th, and 8th Panzer Division, along with, I see some 20th Panzer Division. They are double-sided counters for the most part, except for the markers up here, which are the formation markers. These look pretty well done. Another quality addition, it looks like, to the BCS. The first of the maps here, and again, these are your kind of your gamer's standard, both as far as weight and graphics. It's kind of a semi-gloss map. I'll not unfold it here because I will show you the full map layout with all of them assembled, but this is map A here. So we'll set that aside for now. And like I said, we'll get a better look at that all laid out. And here we have our first set of version 2.0 charts. You've got nice, detailed but not too in-depth sequence of play here, an attack sequence for you. The rules I find in BCS are not necessarily real complex once you sort of grasp the new terminology and the concepts. You can see we've got combat tables here. There's a barrage table and an engagement table. BCS is kind of unique in that it has 3 separate combat tables depending upon what type of unit is attacking and what type of target they are attacking. We've got our infamous snafu table and modifiers here. A nice chart that kind of spells out in full color the effects of a full, partial, or fail result on your snafu roll. They've got a little crib sheet here for prepared defense and a really nice little retreat execution box. On the back here, we've got urban hex control chart, little definition of safe path and legal hexes, and a nice chart to kind of differentiate the difference between a unit being stopped and a unit being finished. So it looks like these are a real nice set of charts. They are on cardstock, and they are kind of glossy or semi-glossy cardstock, full color. Next, we have our second unit counter sheet. More Germans here, as well as some Hungarians in this kind of this blue-gray. And now you can see the Soviets. You can see here we've got, what's that, about 40 different Soviet formations in the game, and that compares, if I look back to the German formation markers here, assuming there aren't any more formation markers, which I doubt, we've got, what, 20, 30, about 32 German formations involved in this game, and like I said, it looks like 41 Soviet formations. I don't think all of those formations are involved in all of the scenarios. The game covers, you can see here, the Soviet guards are in this kind of this orangish color, and the regular Soviets will be in this brown. The game covers the fighting in and around Budapest, the German relief efforts from January through March 1945. And there is no single campaign scenario that covers the entire January to March time frame. However, there is a big scenario that covers basically all of January. I believe it's the Conrad 1, 2, and 3 offensives that the Germans launched. And that weighs in at, I think, 26 turns, which, if I'm correct, that makes it the longest BCS scenario that they've published so far. Last Blitzkrieg, the longest scenario in that is 16 turns. And in Brazen Chariots, the Operation Crusader full campaign scenario is 21 turns. So I'm pretty sure it's 26 turns. If I'm right about that, that'll be the longest by a stretch. We have a Soviet player book here. It's going to list your Soviet air points and replacement tables. Again, another chart explaining the different activation types and what is required or what's allowed. Inside, we've got the chart showing the number of allotments, primary and secondary allotments that you're going to have in order to activate formations on any given turn. Charts for the Soviet surge special rule. The Germans will also have a surge rule. And then some dates to remember. And then, of course, over on this side, we've got the order of arrival for reinforcements. And then on the back, a terrain effects chart. So it looks like they've done a nice job with the player aids so far. We have here another map. Again, this is map B. Give you a little look at it here. There's a Conrad 3 surge box where you can lay out the units that will be involved in that. And again, we'll take a closer look at the map in a minute when we get them all laid out. Here's the first of the BCS marker sheets. We've got artillery points up here, and then strength markers, prepared defense markers, coordination, fatigue level, objectives, some support markers, pretty standard stuff. Nothing's really changed on those from, I think, from last Blitzkrieg. And we have another set of series charts and tables. So that's 2 of those. Here's our version 2.0 series support book. This is an interesting little book. It's not a rule book. Rather, it's a collection of articles, including designer's notes from Dean and a couple of articles that folks, including yours truly, has written to kind of help get new players into the game. I really suggest that if you get this game, or I believe they put something very similar into Brazen Chariots, this would be the book I would recommend starting with before you even get to the rule book. Dean does a nice job of explaining why he decided to do a lot of the things he did. And the system has some pretty unique and innovative concepts and mechanics in it. So if you understand where the designer's coming from, it should make it a little bit easier for you to kind of grasp the rules themselves when you get into the rule book. You can see here, BCS Rules, read this first. This is an excellent, kind of not quite a programmed instruction article, but it comes very close to that, where it'll sort of lay out how you should read the rules to really understand them the best. Then we've got the BCS Primer here, which talks about the series kind of in general and some of the big concepts and how the series is different from most of your traditional operational level games. And it discusses some of the mistakes and errors that players have made as they make the adjustment to the system. So following that, we've got a complete activation example. Activations are the heart of the BCS, and they've got a real nice full color example here that goes on for a few pages. So that will give you an idea. If you understand how an activation works, how it runs, you're going to understand 80–90% of how to make this game work. Now, how to play it well, that's going to take a little bit of practice. They have a nice activation sequence flow chart here, again in full color. They have different types of zones of control in the game as well. And that can be confusing a little bit when you're trying to learn it. And they've got a nice chart here that addresses all of those specifics. Assignment procedure, this is for independent units and things like artillery points that can be assigned and unassigned from different formations throughout the game from turn to turn. And now they have a flow chart here for handling your combat trains and the logistical side of the equation. And then finally on the back here, they've got a little crib sheet for the different types of attacks. You have engagements, attack by fire, which is essentially tanks or HE weapons that are firing in the direct fire role. You have regular attacks, shock attacks, which are roughly equivalent to overruns, destruction barrages for artillery, and then recon, and then a couple of other little easy notes, notes on things that are easy to forget. And then again, on the back page here, I've got another little chart that shows unit skills and vulnerabilities chart. Now, this looks like a lot of stuff if you are not familiar with the system, and it may be a little overwhelming, but what they've done is basically put together a nice, an excellent little booklet here. It weighs in at 24 pages. All of these charts that you see here, none of them are required to play the game. These are all things to just help new players remember what's what, and occasionally the experienced players who might forget a thing or two. But the rules themselves are not as complicated as it might appear just by looking through here. The game plays very quickly and very smoothly, actually. It's just a really elegant design. Here's our Axis activation display. Again, just like the Soviet, a place to track your allotments for this particular turn and where you're going to put your formations. Now, next up, we've got another sheet, this time of Soviet units. You can see a fair number of guard formations. There are some Romanians here in this greenish color. This looks like it's going to be a really interesting game to play. Certainly no shortage of mobile divisions. We've got our third map, and again you can see a bit of the Danube there. This looks like, I think this is the northeastern map. We've got again another 6th Guards Tank Army Surge sort of setup display, where you can place the counters right here on the map. We'll get that laid out here in a minute. Let's see what's next. We got more bulge for your blitzkrieg. It says here, included in Panzers Last Stand are a set of add-on units for last blitzkrieg. The following scenarios have the setup and arrivals for these add-on units, as well as a new scenario extending the campaign game into January 1945. So that's very interesting. It's double-sided, some updates. I thought that was this is interesting. Here we go. So in the last blitzkrieg game, the campaign scenario runs 16 December through 31 December. So it ends right at the end of the year. There is an Ardennes campaign, scenario 11, that is going to extend that another 16 turns out to 32 turns. So that would, in fact, make it a little bit longer than the longest scenario in Panzer's Last Stand. That's interesting. I will have to take a look at that in a little more detail. Here we have some more Soviets, lots of Soviets. And it looks like over here, we've got the American 90th Infantry Division, some support units, and some more British units, 51st Infantry, 6th Airborne. These would be the extra units for the last Blitzkrieg extension. And looks like another German Infantry Division, 89th Infantry Division, and the 340th Volksgrenadier. So that's very interesting. Next up, we have the Axis player book. This is going to be very similar to what we saw with the Soviet player book. You've got your air points and replacement activation types for this particular game. Then we've got our Axis activation surge chart, dates to remember, and then the Conrad 3 surge. I believe this is replicated on the map. And then we've got a copy. This is what the full map looks like when it's laid out. And we'll see that up close shortly. And then the Axis order of arrival for reinforcements, a couple of pages of that, 3 pages of that, and then a terrain effects chart on the back of that. And then we've got the 4th and final map here. We'll take a look at that shortly. And then I believe, nope, not quite the bottom, we have the 2nd markers, series markers. There's the die, the other die. So it's a 2d6 game. You'll roll either 1 or 2 of these dice, depending upon what you're trying to do. And last but not least, we have the turn record track. So you can see here from the 2nd of January through the 27th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Yeah, 26 turns there. And then for some of the later scenarios, there's Operation Southwind, I believe it is, in February. That is the 17th through the 24th. And then the last German offensive of the war, Operation Spring Awakening in March. So you've got those tracks there. Got a terrain key and then weather here. And that is it. As you can see in the box, there's quite a lot in here. I would say the physical quality of all this is, again, standard in what you're going to find in any of the previous Battalion Combat series and most of the Gamers games. Now let's take a look at the maps once we get the full map layout set up on the table. I'm trying to pull back enough to give you a look at all 4 maps laid out together. It covers the same footprint as last Blitzkrieg, but what they've done is they've turned the map orientation 90 degrees. So rather in last Blitzkrieg, the maps are kind of laid out with the long axis from east to west and north-south. But here, actually, if I swing around a little bit this way, you'll get a bit of a glare, but north is actually that way, south is this way, and the short edges, or the long edges, are east and west. So you can see that we've got a big area of wooded and hilly terrain here in the south. Down here along the west edge is Lake Balaton, and a lot of open plain in Hungary. The east edge, actually, if we start down here at Lake Balaton, we work our way up the western side of the map. You can see the graphics are very similar, if not the same, to last Blitzkrieg as far as rolling terrain, woods, forests. And we get up here to the Danube. You've got Komarom, which was the focus of quite a bit of fighting during 1945. And we'll kind of move eastwards here through the kind of the bad terrain here, again along the Danube. We continue heading east, and then the big bend in the Danube as it turns south. And over here we have Budapest itself, and you can see it is a pretty sizable urban area, which required the development of those new urban warfare rules. As we continue down the east edge of the map, you can see some swampy areas over there, but generally it's an interesting map layout because you have such a wide open area here in the south, which is going to play very different from the more closed-in terrain up here. And of course, obviously, you have the big prize there, Budapest. So an attractive map. Looking forward to pushing some pieces on this one in the near future when we can. And overall, I'd say pulling it out of the box and taking a look at what's inside, that Panzers Last Stand looks like it's going to be a worthy addition to the Battalion Combat series. Stay tuned for some future content on the channel with this game. But first, we're going to take you through the rest of the last Blitzkrieg campaign that we're working on. That'll also maybe give me some time to get familiar with Panzers Last Stand. We'll probably put up a review and then probably some playthroughs to let you guys see just how the game works. Thanks for watching today. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so you don't miss out on any of our future BCS content or any of our other stuff on the channel. And we'll see you next time.